From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Saturday, September 24th, 2016. Silver is trading at $19.68 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,338 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $606. Antiwar.com reports U.S. Commander General John Nicholson on Friday reported that Afghanistan's government has lost control of about one-third of the country's overall territory, with the Taliban having claimed over 10% and at least 20% of the territory in a contested state. Nicholson reported heavy fighting, mounting casualties, and up to 1,300 the Islamic State fighters in Afghanistan, receiving direct aid and guidance from the leadership in Syria. Incredibly, he presented the overall situation as a positive one, noting that the Afghan government still controls the majority of the population and all of the biggest cities. Still, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Joe Dunford described Afghanistan as stalemated in his own remarks to the Senate, and while Nicholson tried to put a more positive spin on it, having reached equilibrium, that's 15 solid years of upbeat Pentagon assessments that have left the Taliban in control of more territory than at any time since the war began, and no realistic possibility of an end. The Taliban is also drawing increasingly near to some cities in Afghanistan, including Tallinn, Lashkar Gah, and Kunduz, all three provincial capitals, and all three facing on-again, off-again sieges, with Kunduz already having fallen to the Taliban at least once for a few months last year. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap and Amazon, at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com. UPI reports guards at the U.S. Army's top correctional facility will send whistleblower Chelsea Manning into solitary confinement for 2 weeks as punishment for a suicide attempt she made in July, according to officials. Manning, who is serving a 35-year prison sentence for leaking large amounts of classified information about the U.S. war in Iraq and Afghanistan, was charged with misconduct for the suicide attempt and will spend 14 days in solitary confinement. Formerly Private Bradley Manning, Chelsea is now being closely watched at Fort Leavenworth, but it's unclear when the 14 days of solitary confinement will begin. Manning said in a statement released on Friday by an advocacy group, "There is no date set for this to start. After I receive the formal board result in writing, I have 15 days to appeal. I expect to get them in the next few days." Adding, "I am feeling hurt, I am feeling lonely, I'm embarrassed by the decision. I don't know how to explain it." Manning is currently awaiting gender transition surgery, which has been approved by the Army. She has served 6 years of her sentence thus far. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports a federal appeals court overturned the triple murder conviction of an Indiana death row inmate on Friday and granted him a new trial due to key evidence that was withheld in earlier trials, according to the man's attorney and court documents. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit in Chicago voted 6-3 to overturn the conviction of Wayne Kupch for the 1988 murder of his wife Beth, her ex-husband Rick Miluski, and his son Aaron Miluski. The court said a videotaped police interview with neighbor Amanda Buck, who was then 9, could have helped challenge the prosecution's timeline of events if it had been introduced as evidence. The tape was never shown to a jury because Buck was later unable to retell the events as she described in the police interview. Court documents said Amanda's statement was exculpatory. If the statement were factually accurate, then Kupch would be innocent. The documents added that while the state was not wrong in its decision to exclude the tape from earlier trials, a precedent set by the U.S. Supreme Court made clear that it must now be entered. Court documents said the interview is the only available information tending to corroborate Kupch's claim of innocence. Alan Friedman, the attorney for Kupch, said by telephone he was relieved by the decision. Friedman said he spoke to his client earlier in the day to tell him the news. Court documents claim that Wayne Kupch was in severe debt and that 2 months before the murders he had taken out a $575,000 life insurance policy on his wife. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.